Okay, a good Erev Shabbos, everyone. As we welcome in Irving Fishbaum, we welcome in Aaron Swade, we welcome in Baruch Ian, Mo Kushner, I'm not sure who that is, Nachman Chapler, we welcome in Menachem Yamansky, Arison Kletzel, Shimon Klein, Ben Zion Cohn, Rabbi Kran, Shalom Fogel, Yitzi Muller. We welcome in David Helfgott on Kol HaLashon here. In the shul, we have Saba, we have Reb Kramer, Reb Leonard, we have Reb Baruch Weber joining us here in the Agudas Yisrael of Fairways, and we are holding by the very bottom line of Daf Chavtal Amibay, sponsored by Baruch Ian, Leil Nishmas Esther Bas Yona, Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba, Avram Ben Shmuel HaKohen, Fush Lema, for Baruch Shlomo Ben Lina, by Aaron Swade, Leili Nishmas Chana Bashmur, and his sister Freda Bashol, by Shimon Deer, for his mother and Chayla Yisrael, Mark Frankel, Lefush Shalema for Miriam Sor, Basipora, Chana Bas Gittel Esther, by Goldwasser for Karsatay, for his family, what Hashem did for his family and for the Chayla Yisrael. We learn for my Shver, Avigdor Aya ben Rivka. We learn for Meir ben Chayesara, Yehudis Cyril Bas Miriam. They should all have a Refuah Shalema. B'Seg Shachal Yisrael. Baruch Ian should also get back on his feet, get moving around, and be fine. We are.
Excuse me, Rabbi, did you get the message about Kayla Rus?
Yes, tonight is. That's right, Kayla Rus, sweet Kayla Rus, who passed away. She was cut down in her 17th year of life. That's our Chavar Adaf, Dr. Eisenberg's daughter. We learned on her 8th yard site, Kayla Rus Bas Bunim Tuvya, her neshama should have an aliyah. She should be a mlitzis yosher for her family, for all of us, and all of Klal Yisrael. That might have been the last levaya that Miriam Libby attended. Well, no, probably not, but it was one of the last. It wasn't the last. Amar Reb Chia bar Ashi, Amar Rav. Reb Chia bar Ashi says in the name of Rav, Hoysa lo Yeseris, if the Eved had an extra finger or an extra toe, the Chatcha, and the Odin cut it off. So he had 6 and now he has 5. Still, Eved Yotzbem Lecheris, you cut off a digit from his body, it is considered a Rashi Evarim, and he goes free. Amar Rav Huna, but that's Vushin Isperis al Gavayat. That's only if it was on the same row as the rest of the fingers. It could be counted together with the fingers. If it was a small little finger that wasn't counted with the fingers, it doesn't count. Now the Gemara tells us an interesting story as we welcome in Ruvain Palak, Moshe Lehman, I think that's Stephen Holtzman. Welcome, Ruvain. Two lines from the top of Daf Chafei Amid Aleph. Savei de Nazunya. The elders of Nazunya. Nazunya was a place. The elders were Talmidei Chachamim. Loi also the Pirkei de Rav Chisda. They didn't come to Rav Chisda's shir. Amalei Rav Amnuna. So Rav Amnuna said, Ziltzan Inu. Go put them in hiding, which means go place a ban on them. And it was done in a respectful manner that they are, since they're Talmidei Chacham, just tell them they're under house arrest. They can't leave their house. Now over here, we have a very interesting Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai says that the reason why he did this is because when people see that these scholars don't come, they also won't come. It's a very serious thing. I once had in my shul a rather chashuv a person who would open up a sefer while I talked. And in his mind, he didn't need to hear what I have to say. In his mind, he knew it all already. So I told him that he can't do it because when people see him do it, they'll also start doing it. And he has face recognition because he's a chashuv a person. he didn't like what I said and he left the shul. But that's what the Gemara is saying over here. They might not have even needed Rav Chisda's shir. But by not coming to the shir, it sent a bad message to everybody else. So he said to Rav Amnuna that he should put them under a ban. So Rav Amnuna went to them, and first he respectfully asked them, maybe they had a good excuse. Why don't you come to the shir? Amrulay, they said to him, why should we come? We asked him something, and he didn't answer us. So Rav Amnuna said, did you ever ask for me something, and I didn't resolve it? So they took him up on it. An Eved that was castrated by his Adain, Bebeim, in the testicles, Mahu. Does he go free? Is it considered Kamum Shebegali Dami? Is that considered like an exposed area? Or since it's really covered by the body, it's not an exposed area. And Rav Amnuna didn't have an answer. Now, you have to know, the sages didn't make things up. They didn't fudge anything. That's a klal. The Gemara says in Brachas, Lameid l'shayncha loimer eini yodea. Train yourself to say, I don't know. Because what's the alternative? Shema tizbada, lest you invent something, out of embarrassment you invent an answer, and then v'teaches, when the real answer comes, you'll be caught. So Rav Amnuna said, honestly, lo yave biyada, he didn't have it in his hand. Amru lai, so the Sabed in Azunya made short shrift of Rav Amnuna. Ma shimcha, what's your name? Amalu Hamnuna. Amalei lav Hamnuna, you're not Hamnuna, ela karnuna. You're from those that hang at the street corners. That's the Yoshvei Kronos. In other words, you didn't know the answer. You came to give us Musar? So also the Kamid Rav Chisda, Rav Amnuna came back to Rav Chisda to tell them about the question that they asked. Amalei, so Rav Chisda knew the answer. Rav Chisda said, Masnisa bo minach. They were asking from you a brisa. The Tanan, Esrim varba Rosh Evam Sheba Adam, the 24 tips of the limb of man, Kulam ein mitamim mishum michya. There is a tzaras called michya. And this special tzaras called michya is only on a part of the body that you could view it all at the same time. So, on the tips of the finger, since the finger slopes in two different directions, you can't see it all at the same time. So therefore it's not susceptible to this tzaras. It has to be a part of the body that you could see all at the same time. The Elohim Rashi, and what are these 24? Rashi etzba'is, the tips of the digits of Yadayim v'Raglayim, of the hands and the feet. V'Rashi Aznaim, the tips of the ear, which go to two different sides. V'Rosh HaChaitim, the tip of the nose. V'Rosh HaGviyah, the tip of the male organ. V'Rosh Dadim Sheb'isha, the nipples of a woman. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Af Sheb'ish. V'Tani Allah, and it says about these Rosh Evarim, B'Kulam Eved Yoytz B'hem L'cheres. With all of these, if they're cut off, an Eved goes free. Rabbi Aimer Af Asiris, even castration. Ben Azai Aimer Af Aloshin, even the tongue. So, Amar Ma'ar, Rabbi Aimer Af Asiris. Now, there's different ways to castrate a person. You can castrate a person by cutting off the male organ, or you can castrate the person by the testicles. Siris Damai, Elam is Siris the Gid. By cutting off the male organ, well, that's already covered. That's one of the 24. Hainu Gaviyah. Elalav siris debayim. It's cutting of the testicles. Rabbi Aimer afasiris. Now, it says, Rebbe says castration, and then it says, Ben Azai says even the tongue, which implies that Rebbe holds that the tongue is not a mum shebegoli. It's not, since it's mostly in the mouth, so Rebbe Lashon Lai, Rebbe doesn't include the tongue. V'raminu. Now we move on to another subject. You're just joining us, as we welcome in Abba Steinhauser. If you're just joining us, we are 3 lines into the wide lines on Daf Chafei Amud Aleph, learning to be Mekayim the mitzvah v'dibar tabam lasois nachas ruach liyotzreinu. V'raminu hari misha hoya mazeh. Mazeh is the spraying of the mei chatas, the water of lustration. If, let's say, Rich would become tummy from a mace, become contaminated. So in Talmudic times, he has to have the water of the ashes of the paraduma sprinkled upon him on the 3rd and the 7th day. And it has to be sprinkled upon a part of the body which is exposed. So Misha Yamazev v'nitza hazo al piv, and it's sprayed on his mouth. Rabbi Aimer hiza. It's not good. Now, my love, that can't mean the mouth. The outside of the mouth, that's surely good. That's surely exposed. So, my love, al-shainai, doesn't it mean on the tongue? And here you see that Rebbe holds the tongue is good. So that means the tongue is exposed. Says, on the lips. Says the Gemara, what's the Kiddush on the lips? Al-sfasav pshita. How could the Chachamim argue? Isn't that surely the lips are exposed? Says the Gemara, the same as Zimnim de Cholim Sifsei. Sometimes he puts together his mouth and his lips get concealed. Kamash Malon, Rebbe holds no, the lips is considered most of the time exposed. I Vatanya al-Lishainai. It says that Rebbe says al-Lishainai. It says beferish that Rebbe holds. Now, this Vatanya is talking about the mitzvah vazah, and it says beferish that he holds al-Lishainai on the lips. V'oitanya, and furthermore, we've learned Vishenito Raiv Haloshin. Now this is talking about a Bechar. Now we learn that the blemish of a Bechar, we learn that the blemish, I'm saying share now. I think they knocked it off. No. Va'itanya, it says that a bechar, we know that a bechar has to be offered up on the mizbeach unless it gets a blemish, and it has to be a blemish in an exposed place. V'aitanya v'shenito roiv haloshin. If the majority of the tongue was removed, Rabbi Aimer, it doesn't have to be the majority of the whole tongue, but roiv hamidaber shebelushainai, the majority of the part of the tongue which the animal speaks with. So that means that Rebbe holds that the tongue is also exposed. So why does it say Rebbe says Sirus, and then Ben Azai says the Lashon? But Rebbe obviously holds that the Lashon is also an exposed blemish, and therefore an Eved would go free. Says the Gemara, rather we're going to learn Ela Rebbe Aimer Sirus v'loy mibai Lashon. Rebbe says castration, and of course the tongue. Ben Azai Aimer Lashon aval Sirus loy. So then the Gemara asks the obvious question. If Rebbe is saying more than Ben Azai, so then why doesn't it say Umay af? And when Ben Azai says af haloshin, he doesn't mean af besides the series, he means af besides the 24 mentioned in the beginning. Umay af akamaisa. Ihochi, says the Gemara, then nachtem or the Ben Azai bereisha, say that the Tanakama says 24. Ben Azai says even the tongue. And Rebbe says even castration. Says the Gemara, you know what? The Tana put it in the order that he heard it. He heard first Rebbe's opinion. Tana Shama L'de Rebbe. He heard Rebbe's opinion that both Siris and the tongue, Ukva'a, and put it in its position. And then Ushma L'de Ben Azai, and then at the end he heard Ben Azai who says only the tongue. And he was loyal to how he heard it, and it didn't budge from its place. That's the accuracy of the transmission. Amar Ula, Hakol Moedim Beloshin. The din is, it's interesting, this is a very interesting drasha. It says in the pasuk, V'chol asher yiga by hazav, anything touched by the one suffering from biblical gonorrhea, the yodav loy shotaf b'mayim, and his hands weren't rinsed in water, v'tamei ada orev. Now that's a difficult pasuk, because what do you mean if it's touched by the zav and his hands aren't rinsed by water? Rinsing the zav's hands in water doesn't help it. Zav needs tefillah. So what does it mean? We learn therefore out that a zav is metame if he touches a person in an area which is exposed like the hands. So therefore, the Gemara says, Amar Ula hakol moedim beloshin. Everybody agrees with the tongue le'inyan tuma de galoi hui eitzel hasheretz, that it is considered revealed that if the sheretz, one of the 8 shvatzim that is metame, like a snail, a lizard, right, a mole, if it touches a person on the tongue, it's considered revealed. My taima asher yiga boy amat rachmana, that which it could touch. V'hainami bar negihu, and sometimes the tongue is stuck out of the mouth and it could be touched. Everybody holds the inyan tefillah ketamindami. When it comes to immersion, you don't have to go into the mikveh and open your mouth. You keep your mouth shut, because the tongue is considered like a hidden part of the body and it doesn't need to be immersed. My time of arachetz b'sarai b'mayim amarachmana. You bathe your flesh. The flesh is on the outside. Ma b'sar me'avroi. The flesh is on the outside. Afkol me'avroi. You don't have to open your mouth. You could close your mouth when you go into the mikveh the whole time. Lo nechleku ela le'inyan hazah. Where do they argue? They argue about sprinkling the mechatas. Rebbe medami la l'tumah. Rebbe compares it to tumah, just like tumah, the tongue is considered gully. So also by hazah it's considered gully, and therefore hazah on the tongue is good. Rabbana medami la l'tefillah, and just like by tefillah it's considered hidden, and it's you don't need to have the tongue in the mikveh. So here also the hazah on the tongue is no good. V'travayu b'hai krokamifli. And they argue how to expound this pasuk. Okay, Rabbi, I just want to say, we're joined now by Sandy Grunfeld. We're also joined by Richard Rosenzweig. Now, Richard Rosenzweig called me earlier today. He's in the hospital. He had a procedure. Baruch Hashem, we want to wish him a chever adaf, or a refuah shleima. The procedure was a success. And he's joining us from the hospital. As we always say, what a Kiddush Hashem, the unbelievable Chevre Adaf that we have. You know, when you think about not coming, you say to yourself, we have people that join us from the hospital. I mean, it's really remarkable. I mean, remember Nachman Chapler was joining us from the hospital all the time. Richard also gifted me with the Miriam Libby story. He was in the hospital, he finished his procedure, and he was encouraged to walk. You know, that's what they do in the hospital. They encourage you to right away get on your feet. So he remembered that my Rebbetzin said that when she was in the hospital, she would go visit other people. So that's what he did. He went to visit other people. And I told him that that's the meaning of tzaddikim afilu b'misasan kruyim chayim. The righteous, even in their death, are considered alive. Mem Libby is, even in her death, is teaching people and instructing people. Richard, we wish you a refuah shalema from Hashem, b'seich sha'achir Yisrael. Now, what are they arguing? Why does one compare hazah to tumah? And just like the tongue is considered revealed, so also for hazah of the meichatis, it's considered revealed. While one compares it to tefillah, that it's considered hidden, and then you can't do hazah on the tongue. So the Gemara says, "V'travayu b'hai krok kamifliki." Both of them are arguing with the following pasuk. It says in the pasuk, "V'hiza hatar al atamei." It says in the pasuk, and the tar sprinkles on the tamei, b'yom hashlishi, on the third day, u'b'yom hashvi'i, and on the seventh day, v'chitai, he's purified, b'yom hashvi'i, v'kibes begada v'rachatz b'mayim, and he immerses himself. So the pasuk mentions Tumah, and it also mentions V'rachatz b'mayim, Tefillah. So therefore it says, Rebbe Savar, V'hiza atar al atamei b'yom hashlishi v'yom hashmi v'chitai. So since it puts the word chitai, which is the purification of the sprinkling, together with the word tamei, so Rabbi holds we compare it to tumah. So just like by tumah, the tongue is considered by a sheretz gully in the open, so it's good here too. Rabbanan say we take the word v'chitai and we put it together with the latter part of the pasuk, b'yom hashvi v'chibas b'gad v'rachatz b'mayim. So the purification is considered like tefillah. So just like by tefillah, it's considered tamun and not exposed, the tongue. So here also it's considered tamun and not exposed, and you can't spray it. Why didn't the Rabbanan compare it to tummy in the beginning of the pasuk? So Rabbanan say we'd rather compare Tara to Tara. We'd rather compare Hazah to Tefillah. Tara of Tara have a Leila Melech. The Rebbe, why does he compare it to Tumah? Why doesn't he compare it to the Tefillah at the end of the pasuk? The Rebbe Nidamula Tefillah. Because it doesn't say next to the word V'chitai Tefillah. It says V'chitai b'yom hashvini v'chibes begadav, and wash your clothing. So it interrupts with V'chibes begadav. V'chibes begadav hifsek ha'inyan. Says the Gemara, V'sava Rebbe le'inyan tefillah k'taman dami? Does Rebbe hold that when it comes to immersion, the tongue is considered like a hidden part of the body? It's an interesting question. It sounds like Rebbe holds that whatever is in the mouth doesn't have to be accessible to the mikveh water. There was an incident of a maidservant in Rebbe's house. Now remember, a maidservant, a shifcha kananis, has mitzvahs like a woman. So therefore, if she becomes a nida, she needs tefillah. So shetavla, she went and immersed herself. V'olsa v'nimtza etzem bein shineha, and she found a bone between her teeth. V'tzricha Rebbe tefillah acheres, and Rebbe says she needs another tefillah. That was considered a chatzitza. But why? He holds the mouth is taman. So why does she need another tefillah? So here the Gemara tells us a Shas Yesod that we have a lot of times. The Shas Yesod is, the din is that a mincha, a meal offering, does not need to be kneaded. It does not need to be kneaded, excuse the pun. It does not need to be kneaded. But it has to be put in a keli that would allow it to be kneaded. Now, if you put more than 60 isarin in one keli, it won't be able to be kneaded. Then it's no good. But why not? It doesn't need to be kneaded. So the Gemara tells us a rule. Kala roi labila. If it has the potential that it could be kneaded, ain bila makevespa. But v'kol she'eina roi labila, if you can't knead it, it doesn't have the potential, then bila is makeves. Give you another example in halacha where this is applicable. The formula in the process of chalitza, to say, the woman has to say, Meyon Yavami lahakim lachiv shem. My brother-in-law refuses. The din is that formula is not ma'akiv. It's good even if they don't say it. But if she's a mute, then the chalitza is no good. Because you have to be roy to be able to say it. So the same thing the Gemara answers here. The water doesn't have to go into the mouth, but it has to be roy to get everywhere in the mouth. And that's what the Gemara says. Even if you don't need the water to go into the mouth, it must be accessible. With the bone there, it's not accessible to get to the whole area of the mouth. If there's less than 60 isarin, 60 tenths of meal offering, so it's fit to be kneaded, then eid bila makeves. Then the kneading does not disqualify. But if it's not fit to be kneaded, if it's more than 60 isarin, then bila makeves. Then it's disqualified because it doesn't even have the potential to be able to be used. Now says the Gemara, this question of whether the bayim, the testicles, are considered an exposed part of the body or not, is actually a machlokes tanoim. The pasuk says, "Umoich v'kosas," if it's squashed or crushed, v'nosik v'karas, or cut or severed. These are all considered blemishes. These are blemishes that if the animal has such a blemish, it cannot be used as a carbon. Kulam bebein. This is all talking about the testicles. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Divrei Rabbi. That's the opinion of Rabbi. Rabbi Yehuda says, excuse me. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Kulan bebeim. Says the Gemara, this is all by the testicles. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara asks, by the testicles and not by the organ? The male organ is surely exposed. Bebeim v'loy begid? Ela kulan af bebeim. Even the testicles. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Aimer kulan begid. No, it's only the male organ. The testicles are considered hidden behind the body. Rabbi Yaisi strikes a compromise. Moch because if it's squashed and crushed so that the actual testicles, that's noticeable, then af bebeim. Nosik v'karas, if the cords attached to the scrotum, which are hidden, are cut or severed, that's not so noticeable, and therefore it's only begid, it's only by the male organ, begid in, bebeim like, but not by the testicles. You're looking like you have a question. Baruch? No? Okay. We finished the sugya of Eved Kanani. And now we come to the great sugya of kinyonim, of acquisitions. Behema gasa. large livestock. Now, large livestock is, let's say, an ox, a cow. Niknis b'mesira is acquired by handing over the reins, by handing over the foot. Vadaka, small livestock, bagva, by carrying it, picking it up. Hagva is a super kinyan. Gemara says Hagva kaina b'kol makam. Hagva acquires even in the rishus of the meicher, even in the property of the seller. Divrei Meir, that's the opinion of Meir. Divrei Meir of Rabbi Eliezer. The Chacham say no. A behemoth daka is not something that's easy to pick up because it sticks its feet into the ground and resists being picked up. The Chachamim behemoth daka niknes b'mashicha. The behemoth daka is acquired by causing it to come to you, its full length, or the foreleg and the hind leg, either by hitting it with a stick or calling it. Darish Rav b'kimchunya. Rav taught in Kimchunya behema gasa niknes b'mashicha. Unlike our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says the behema gasa is acquired with masira, with handing over the reins, with handing over the bell that's around its neck. So, Ashkechinu Shmuel Talmidei de Rav. So Shmuel found the disciples of Rav. Amalu miyam Rav behema gasa niknes b'mashicha. That's unlike our Mishnah. V'anan b'masiratan. V'Rav Nami, and Rav also, he taught b'masiratan. Rav also taught that the correct rendering of the Mishnah is b'masira. That a behema gasa is done b'masira. Hadar b'me'ahi? Shmuel asked the Talmidim, did Rav retract that? So Gemara says no. He's just explaining the position of a Tana of a Brisa. Huda Amar ki hai Tana. He was saying the position of a Tana of a Brisa. The Tanya, remember, the Tanan is a Mishnah. The Tanya is a Brisa. The Tanya, the Chachamim Aimrim, Zu v'Zu niknes b'mashicha. Both, not only a behema daka, but a behema gasa can also be acquired by mashicha, by hitting it and causing it to walk in front towards you, or by calling it. Rabbi Shimon Aimer, Zu v'Zu b'agva. Both a large animal and a small animal are acquired by lifting it up. Says the Gemara, if you have to lift up a large animal, how are you going to acquire an elephant? Not picking up an elephant. I mean, maybe rich, but most of us, no. You see, he points to his shoulder. With a good shoulder, he'd be able to do it. But, right? So, Maskevla Rav Yosef Elamiata Pillar Rabbi Shimon B'meyikne. How do you acquire an elephant? So the Gemara says, there you use the handkerchief trick. Amalei Abaye b'chalipin. You're the chalipin. I give the handkerchief, and in lieu of the handkerchief, I get the elephant. It's a very big kinyan. One of the kinyanim that I do with the guy is kinyan chalipin. The guy brings, every year, Tony knows. Tony the Noble is my guy from Mechiras Chametz for the last 25 years. And he brings a glove, or he brings some article, and he gives it to me, and in lieu of that, he gets all the chametz.
I remember a hat.
A hat, right? One time he came with a hat. This year he came with pickleballs. Inami, says the Gemara, b'soicheres mekayma. That's an interesting way. I rent the area underneath the elephant, so that way the elephant is now in my property. and therefore I acquire it because it's in my property. Reb Zera says a different way. Maybe arba kalim, he brings 4 utensils, umanichin tachas raglav, and he puts it underneath its feet, so that way it's resting in the buyer's utensils. Now this doesn't mean that he takes the utensils and he lifts them up with the utensils, because Taisva says these utensils don't lift it 3 tefachim from the ground, and Hagvah has to be 3 tefachim from the ground. So the Gemara says, but can your utensils inquire it if it's in the rishus of the meicher, in the rishus of the seller? Shmat mina kelev shalokech b'rishus meicher kana lokech. Can you therefore infer from here that the utensils of the buyer acquire in the seller's premises, which is a big shaila, a big brouhaha in Masechtas Bava Basra? Says the Gemara, it's talking about where you're on a side street. In a side street, you could acquire if it's in your kalim. Now the Gemara says the other pshat. It's talking about you put under its legs chaviles meiris, bundles of vines. These vines are 3 tvachim high. So then when it steps on the bundles of vines with all 4 of its feet, you're lifting it off the ground, and that is considered hagvah. Rabbi say, we want to remind you that tomorrow, Motzei Shabbos, the last Motzei Shabbos of the year, the last Motzei Shabbos of Tov Shin Pei Gimel. That's exciting. I'll say it again. The last Motzei Shabbos of Tov Shin Pei Gimel. So let's make sure to come and bring a friend. It'll be. What does it say on the schedule?
Time is for the Daf Yomi.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you in a second. Let me see what I.
We have slippers.
Yeah, let me see what I announced. The Motzei Shabbos is 9:45. Motzei Shabbos is 9:45. I will put the Divrei Yisairis from Slichas at 12:45 and the actual Slichas on Zoom for people that want to participate in the Slichas like I did last year. And now we're going to do the Mishnah Yomis.